many of kids, they didn't make it home, so they die on the road. So when one of us like me survive and go and tell people, other people thinking that maybe their kid is still alive, but they are not alive. Back before I left in 1988, I used to call him Makwei. That's M-A-K-U-E-I. Back in 1992, I went to church to become a Christian, so I used the name Peter.
When Peter was just 9 years old, he returned home after grazing his cattle to find his entire village razed to the ground and deserted. Afraid, he joined a small group of lost children and set out towards Ethiopia. A journey of 3,000 miles on foot that would take them 3 months to complete. Along the way, they were attacked by soldiers and wild animals. They suffered disease and extreme hunger. Many of the children died on the roadside, abandoned, frightened, and alone.
The last time I saw my village was in 1988, and it was the day that I left.
It was destroyed?
Yep, it was destroyed.
For 3 years, Peter lived with thousands of Sudanese refugees in a camp in Ethiopia. But renewed unrest between Ethiopia and Eritrea forced them to flee to Kakuma camp in Kenya. Here, he was recruited by Dr. Garang's forces to take up arms against the Sudanese government. He became a soldier at 14 years of age and was wounded after 3 years of combat. The US government then selected Peter as part of the Lost Children of Sudan initiative to go to the US, where he lived and worked for 3 years. Children's Hunger Relief Fund then asked their project's director to try and locate Peter's family in Sudan. This was a tough request, because not only is Sudan the largest country in Africa, it has been embroiled in a civil war for over 20 years. As a result, people are displaced. There is no infrastructure here such as internet, there are no cell phones, no fax machines, and in fact, it is so underdeveloped here that there are very, very few telephones in the rural areas at all. So, locating one woman in this vast landmass and knowing for certain that it is in fact the person you seek is like looking for a needle in the proverbial haystack. Derek utilized every contact he had within his vast network, and the search for Peter's mother began in earnest. After 2 long years of searching, they believed that they had located her and that she was alive and would meet them in Nimni, Peter's hometown. With his mother located and a rendezvous arranged, Peter's journey home could eventually happen. It had been 15 years since he laid eyes on his mother, his friends, his family, and his village. It would prove to be an emotional time for the 24-year-old man.
Well, we're just a couple of minutes away from landing Nimni, getting Peter home. We're so close, but yet we're still so far because there's a lot of rain in the air, a lot of clouds. We're going to have a look at the airstrip. If it's really wet, we can't land. We're going to need to fly back to Leah, and that's quite a few hours overland to try and reach here. So we're having a look now at the airstrip.
Although the weather was overcast and the airstrip wet, the conditions were not prohibitive. And as the aircraft began its descent towards Nimni, emotions were in it, were soaring high. An obviously relieved but still anxious Peter greeted the small reception party that awaited his arrival.
We are going to Western Afanal, they call it Western Afanal in Southern Sudan. So in other words, they call it Bintiu. So we are going to Bintiu to see my mom, that I didn't see her in 15 years.
The last moments of his long-awaited return were suspended in time as the group walked the short distance from the airstrip to the village. Peter would re-enter his home the same way he had left, on foot. But today he was filled with anticipation and joy, and not the fear he felt before. And then, with the same swiftness of a long-awaited childbirth, the moment they had all been waiting for was upon them. But it was not at all what they had been expecting. For years, Peter's life had steadily been building to this moment, the moment he would reunite with his mother. And as Peter laid eyes on the old woman, he was overcome by emotion. But his mother, the woman who bore him 24 years prior, did not recognize her only surviving son. For long moments they stood side by side, motionless, speechless, pensive. Peter was visibly drained by the years that had led up to this moment. He and the team that had worked so hard against all the odds to facilitate this reunion were somber, astonished. But as time wore on and the people began to interact, her face softened and transformed into that of a mother once more. She slowly began to see past the years of separation. A few hours after they had met, she gazed at Peter, and to his great relief, she gently uttered the words, "I recognize you, my son. I recognize you."